but congratulations today, the honorees, including your wife, who I understand is birthday today. Well, look, my wife has a rule in her family. When somebody's birthday, sing happy birthday. You ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Alan. Happy birthday to you. Well, it's hell turning 30, but you got to.
What in the baker's heck did we just watch? That's the way to start the show, is with a lovely birthday message from the tone deaf president, current serving president of the United States of America. Welcome to Truth Will Set You Free. Of course, I'm Anthony Russo, the host. We've got a great cast today. We've got a special guest host. We'll see if she comes back after this. I don't know. This is a stress test. We'll see what happens. So we're pretty excited about that. We're going to do some intros. We're going to do a little housekeeping, and then we're going to get into all the topics. We were talking about Hunter's rent payments to the big guy of $50,000 a month for a $2 million place. We're going to talk about the recording of Joe Biden. Is it real or fake? As you guys know, the whole point of this show is to try to figure out where there is truth and where there is not so much truth on either side, conservative or on the liberal side. Spoiler alert, more not truth on the liberal side, but we'll talk about that later. Drag brunches. We're going to talk about the role of the government because we keep seeing them, especially in states like Texas. Talking about jabs and strokes, not to be confused with anything having to do with drag brunches. That's a whole different show for a much more late night hour. And then last but not least, they're going to break down the legacy of MLK and maybe have a slightly alternative thought on that. So, well, at least for me, maybe not from our cast of characters. Let's bring everybody up. We got Casey, we've got Dave, and our special guest host of the show, Kristen, a.k.a. KSOK, Lower 48, all the things. Kristen, introduce yourself for everybody.
Yes, hello. Well, Kristen, I go by KSOK. I have a show, KSOK Uncensored. And I've been doing this for speaking out against tyranny for about 2.5 years now. I live deep behind enemy lines in Portland, Oregon, married to a Portland police officer. All the things happening here on the West Coast.
Do you have any issue? Like, does he get any issues with your stances? Like, does he have any upper management go, you're going to have to tell the wife to zippity zip it?
Not yet. I never post a picture of him. I never say his name. A lot of his coworkers actually follow me. But as far as we know, leadership has not been tipped off, or they don't care.
Or maybe they're like, keep doing what you're doing and try to grow.
That too.
Yeah. Because I'm not going to lie. I can't imagine being there's a couple cities that I would just not want to be a police officer in. Chicago, LA, now that they banned the thin blue line flag, because that makes sense. New York City, and I would say Portland, Seattle would be in the top 5.
Right.
I would not want to work there.
Right. And the funny story is, when I met him, he was NYPD, and I lived there for a little while. He's a New Yorker. I convinced him to move to the West Coast for a better quality of life. It was great. And now might as well be working for the NYPD again.
Yeah, or you can go to Tent City and just get everything paid for by the government. Anyways,
yeah.
Casey, what's going on in your world, my friend?
Not much. It's the first day of our legislature here in Utah, so I'm going through all of our bills. We have some good stuff, like we're one of the big bills I'm going to be pushing for myself and the rest of the state of Utah is we're trying to make it illegal for foreign entities to buy land in Utah. So that will be a great one to get through this year.
If only Abbott could have done that in Texas a little sooner before the Chinese government, aka whatever, own 200,000 acres. Dave, we've got a lot going on. I'll let you go ahead and talk about Great American Syndicate and what you got going on your end as well.
What's up? I just got back from 2 days of skiing in Whiteface and Lake Placid. So
please disclaimer: Whiteface is not sponsored in any way, shape, or form by any kind of white supremacy. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, the face of the mountain is white. So what do you want? Like, it is what it is. But I went with my kids. We had 2 awesome days. The second day was just absolutely gorgeous. Sun, all the trees had snow-tipped, there were just snow-tipped trees all the way up. So it was a beautiful day. 49, I'm a little sore today. Taking me a couple days to recover, but I'm here in spirit and doing a lot better than I was yesterday. That's for sure.
Did you say you snowboard or ski?
I ski.
Okay.
I ski. My daughter snowboards and my son skis as well.
It's such a weird, like there's Casey, you snowboard, right?
I actually can do both, but I prefer snowboarding. Yes.
And then KSOK, do you do it?
Snowboard.
So,
Oh,
and
nice.
you and I are the same age. There's this weird like breakdown of like what was cool and what was not cool. So it's like my age group, there's very few people. If you skied, you were kind of like, why are you skiing? And then all the younger kids, like 10 to 20, they're all skiing because they're like, my parents snowboard. Why would I snowboard? It's so weird.
That's funny. And I live right at the base of Mount Hood, so we're up there often. But you're so right. Like my husband skis, and I'm like, you're a nerd.
That's awesome. And I think it's funny that it's called Mount Hood outside of Portland. So, Dave, we've been working a lot on the syndicate. First off, guys, try to trip the algorithm for us. Please help us out by just saying where you're from. Hit the like button. Hit the share if you can. Do that for us. Obviously, as you guys know, this is a pretty clean show. People will be offended because they're offended by raindrops these days or white mountains. But please go ahead and share this. Again, it's great to have a show like this where we're dispelling some myths. And I think we might have some counters to some conservative arguments on this one. So share it with your liberal friends. Dave, Great American Syndicate, and then we'll get started with the show.
Yeah, so this is a community that we put together actually last year. It's kind of a rebrand off of American Snippets, which is the podcast that we started. Then last year we had our first ever event called the Great American Summit. And then we started our community off of our event called the Great American Syndicate. And basically it's connecting freedom-loving, like-minded patriots who share the same beliefs and values. And we're building this community. We have a lifetime membership that we're only selling 100 of. And when you sign up, you get a cool little custom exclusive welcome box that's full of all kinds of cool gear and shirt and hat and 2 VIP tickets to the next event, which is happening June 2nd and 3rd in Dallas, Texas. Again, that's called the Great American Summit. It was an amazing event we had last year, an incredible lineup of speakers. We're doing the same thing again this year. We would love to see you there. We would love to have you inside of our community. I like to call it a family. So go to greatamericansyndicate.com to learn more.
Yep, and that's on the bottom. I think there's 90 or 91 of the lifetime memberships left, and there's some cool stuff to go along with it. Like you said, the box, and also we're going to be doing some of the stuff we're talking about and releasing this week. Is if you want one-on-one calls for the first 100 people, you guys are going to be able to get like 15-minute calls with Barb, Dave, or me once a month. And there's also going to be a lot of discounts just to join if you're a $4.99. That's what we're working on. A lot coming up. We'll talk about that. And also, as we said, the tickets to the Great American Summit, June 2nd and 3rd, right here by me in Dallas, Texas. And we had some great speakers last year, Bedros, Nick Vujicic, where we've already pretty much confirmed some people this year. And we do know the co-host. I'm going to announce it, Dave, because she's already announced it on her page, if that's okay. Is that cool?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Martha Krejci and I will be emceeing this event, so it'll be a good time. Martha is a badass in all different walks of life, not just patriotism, but also in business. So that's part of the event this year, Patriots of Purpose. Let's get the show started. I'm not even going to do the countdown. I'm not going to do any of that fun stuff. We're well into it. Let's kick the tires like the fires. First topic, we're going to be talking about Hunter's rent payments to the big guy. So for anybody out there that don't know this story, because somebody asked me to, they're like, oh, where's your proof? You don't even have to DuckDuckGo it. You can Google it. Hunter's tax returns were showing $50,000 in payments to his father, again, renting from his father for his house, the Delaware home that, might I add, is where next to the Corvette, some of the documents were, the classified documents, and the house is worth less than $2 million. So you guys can do the math. That means the house will be paid for itself in about 3.5 years. So is this true or is this false? Does anybody have any more information on this that I might be missing?
Well, I saw from a reputable Twitter profile, a post where there's a report that the Biden tax returns disappeared from the campaign website from the exact years Hunter claimed he paid $50K per month to Joe. So the president, who was fully transparent, saying, I'm going to release all my tax returns for the world to see, all of a sudden is not letting people see those specific years, which I find interesting. Not sure if it's true, unverified on my end, but interesting nonetheless.
Casey.
taxation is theft. So whether tax returns are there or not, I don't care. But it definitely shows that there could be potentially someone is hiding some money somewhere.
Kristen.
Yeah, well, I don't know a lot on that topic. I mean, I don't believe in coincidence. I'll say that. So if those files went missing, it's highly likely they're covering something up. But what I do know is that somebody actually that follows me on Instagram is neighbors with Hunter Biden. So Hunter Biden has 2 homes in Malibu, California, paid for by taxpayers. One of the homes is his residence, and the other is for his security detail. So we're paying for that. And we all know that if that was one of the Trump's kids, right, Eric or Don Jr., it would be a fiasco all over the place. So just a complete waste of tax dollars, but that's what they do best.
Yeah, so this is the video that when I was going at it, is this is literally money laundering 101, which they kept talking about with the Trump family. Like the whole 10% of the big guy. How do you prove that? You can't prove just because he said and it makes sense that you use too much logic. But this is a perfect example because there is no rhyme or reason. First off, if you were a father and you didn't need the money, would you charge your kid rent anyways? Or would you just make it a nominal fee? Like I had my mom renting my place. I had her pay what would be the lowest amount that was humanly possible just to try to like cover basic bills. So he was not just charging his son. He was charging his son a rate that makes 0 sense mathematically. That place on Zillow would rent. Okay, go ahead, Dave.
Well, it doesn't make 0 sense. It makes perfect sense to charge someone 50 grand a month if they get access to top secret classified documents.
Correct. Which
Pay to play, right?
Right. With
access.
That would clearly make Hunter guilty, or that would make both of them guilty in the sense. But if you go on Zillow and if you do the basic typical math, that place would rent from anywhere from $6,000 to $7,000, and he was charging his son $50,000, which could be, of course, hey, take this job. Like this was right around the Burisma time. It was actually a little bit after. He was still getting paid by, I believe, the Ukrainian government. I'm sorry, my bad. Getting paid by the Ukrainian businesses and China at the same time. So that was where that money was actually potentially funneled. Again, can we prove it just yet? No, but let's get a leftist response when you look at the fact that $50,000 a month was being paid for rent and say, what's the deal?
What year is it that we're talking about this was done?
Tax returns, I'm actually not sure. I want to say they were from like a 2018 or 2019.
Which is crazy because I'm looking on Forbes because I just looking up like what Joe Biden's net worth is. Forbes says on their website that they in 2019 they made $1 million. And they made $1 million. So that means 600,000 of that came from their son.
So they're obviously hiding some kind. Well, here's the thing. Hunter put that on here's where the truth comes on the other side. This could be completely made up in his taxes. He could be doing that to make sure he wasn't paying taxes. And there might not have been 50,000 for the rent of the house. That is the alternative side of the coin on this. It could actually be a non-existent 50,000. And he was actually just trying to skip on his taxes and say that was a business expense.
So the date is the rent date for the year was 2017. So that's when Hunter Biden is paying Joe 50 grand a month in 2017. The background check where they got this information from, which is a screenshot of the background screening request that Hunter filled out, is signed and dated 2018. And the total amount was $49,910.
There you go. So again, it's one of two things. Either he's lying on his taxes, or which in order to pay less, or which imagine that if that was a Trump, or he's literally renting his father's house and that's the way he's spiffing his dad. So there's nothing good that comes of it. So before we get off this topic, do we think, because I know a lot of people are just wondering and they're going to watch 87 different conservative commentators on this one. Do we think that this is the beginning of the end with Joe Biden with all the classified documents coming out?
Yes.
You've been saying it for a while, Dave. Casey?
I believe we are entering the level of the 25th Amendment being pulled, or he's going to be impeached. One of the two. We are entering that right now.
KSOK.
Yeah, I agree. Neither side wants him in office. He's a loose cannon for the left. He's completely worthless for the rest of us. So I would say this is the beginning of the end.
I would agree there. I just think, and I think Dave said it perfectly. The Democrats, how did they all of a sudden just start looking for these documents? It doesn't make any sense. If they're the ones that want him out, that I think it's a mutual thing at this point.
Well, the thing that's really interesting is that all these attorneys who found this, right, and now they went to the House and they're going through the documents and they're bringing them back and bringing them to the National Archives, whatever. And there's a special counsel. All those people who had their hands on this had zero security clearance to do that. So that, I think, is going to be the real, like, basically they can be subpoenaed, right, to answer questions. Like they're a part of this investigation now.
Yeah, agreed. And then there's this statement, which is actually a really interesting, like, so that's the other question. Where did Joe and Jill live in 2018? So were they still? There's a lot of questions. The one thing we do know is there's no logs. There's no logs of who came from the house, especially with all the classified. There's so many things wrong with this. It's absolutely insane.
What about did you see how the $49,910 is the exact amount that the Chinese energy company gave him as a deposit?
I did not see that part, but that is classic.
So, I don't know. Yeah, again, just
speculation.
Speculation, but it's just interesting. Like, it's almost like a snowball effect. We're kind of learning more and more each day.
I was really hoping for a little bit of contention. William is in the comment box, so it's always good to feed the trolls. And speaking of trolls, I do have a show right after this at 7:30 Central Time with Liberal Barry. It's going to be a digital blunt force discussion where he is a big climate changer. We argue on Facebook all the time, and he had the stones to actually have a conversation with me. We'll see if he shows up. So tonight, right after this, there'll be a live conversation. He said, would you like the questions beforehand? I said, absolutely not, because I'm sure I could dispel everything you have with logic. So let's go with William's comment. How do we know that Obama didn't classify the document? You know what? Hey, I'll let you take it because it seems like you want this one.
Well, I'm going to take it of he's assuming we're talking about documents, first of all. So welcome, William, for not even paying attention to the conversation, because we only mentioned it as not even a part of the conversation. It was just a side topic that was brought up. Anyways, but how do we know Obama didn't declassify all those documents? Well, it hasn't really been dispelled. So when you guys all use that against Trump, let's use that and then that same energy against Joe Biden. Where is anybody saying that was done? Like it was declassified. If it was that simple, why wasn't it said?
And of course, William is alluding to the comment that was made by Trump that I will be very clear was not his finest moment. Trump in an interview saying, I could have declassified them with my mind, which it's not a shiny moment. Like there's a couple moments I don't like with Trump. That's one of them. And also Operation Warp Speed was the greatest thing in history. That's two things that we have very distinct differences on. Oh, it was a joke.
William, if it was a joke, you know that some of those comments are going to trigger us from your prior interactions with us.
Hashtag triggered.
Let's not forget, a lot of people have gone to jail for mishandling classified documents. I believe it's a 10-year jail term. And let's think about what we all store in our garages, shall we? It's like our car, maybe a mountain bike, tools, some, rakes, maybe a lawnmower, not classified documents, especially when you're someone who says they care about that kind of thing or they take it seriously.
I have nuclear codes, email servers, all of that in my.
Yeah. No one keeps of anything of value in their garage except their car.
I'm making Ashley got some diaries in that garage. That would be my guess.
It's a joke. It's so ridiculous.
Actually, I'm about to be having 250 pounds of beef. I just found out from nice. My girlfriend's father. So he's like, "Do you have room for that? Do you guys have room for that?" I'm like, "Who has room for 250 pounds of beef?" So I got to figure out how to do that. That will be going somewhere in the garage. Again, not classified documents. Moving on. So this is where we're going to dispel a myth. I don't know if anybody. I got a message from an old friend of mine that's, a freedom or free thinker, like I like to call it, but he gets really excited about random stuff. That's a no, not in the trunk. Never mind. So he sent me something from Fair Media, which, as you guys know, we used to have Corey Fair. We used to do shows with Cash and Corey, and I decided to distance myself from that show because there was just some rhetoric that I can't get down with, which is I would still have dinner and a meal with somebody that is gay or transgender. And I just can't, there's a certain level of hate that I just can't be with. But anyways, they've done really well in growing their platform. And they do usually typically good shows, and they have a really big following, but they're great at clickbait. And last night there was a clickbait that they put on that some other conservative influencers had on their pages, which was an audio of what sounds like, and I'm not going to play it because I think it's irresponsible if somebody just comes and watches just in this small segment and they think something is wrong, or think something is going on. But there's an audio going around that makes it sound like Joe Biden is calling Hunter Biden and saying the jig is up, essentially, and follow the plan with the red cell phone and Operation Burn It Down or something like that. And it does sound like his voice probably about 6 years ago because he's way too sharp in the audio. So to talk about that, I know, Casey, you heard it on someplace as well. You heard it besides on Corey's show. Where else did you hear it?
I saw it being shared around Twitter. And so that's where I heard it from first.
Got it.
It's the first I've heard of it.
Yeah. Same with me.
Wow.
So just in case anybody gets a hold of this, please know that there is zero evidence that points to this being a real phone call. It does sound like Joe Biden. There's a lot of different things there's impersonators. You can make a deep fake very similar to this, because again, this is not what he sounds like. And Joe Biden, although not sane in terms of Joe Biden, we clearly know has a lot of mental issues. I don't think he'd be this stupid to leave a voicemail on Hunter. You have to think logically. So I'm going to go ahead and say it's a disservice to people that are freedom minding, because it makes us look bad, because it allows leftists to come on and be like, look at those crazy conspiracy assholes. They don't believe in the vaccine and all this stuff. They're two very, very different things.
Well, Anthony, if Hunter Biden is the smartest person Joe Biden knows, then Joe Biden could have left that voicemail.
Yeah, I mean,
imagine the smartest person you know and the person that you love the most, you charge $50,000 a month for rent.
Bingo.
another good point.
Oh man, I wish I had more friends like that. All right, so just as a heads up, guys, this episode will be about an hour long, so we got about 40 minutes left. We're going to keep going down. There might be some time at the end for some random topics if anybody's feeling frisky. This one, I think this is going to have a little bit more of a conversation to it. So as a lot of people have seen, there's, God blessed Stevie, you are the reason that I'm able to not eat ramen noodles every meal. So thank you very much. Always good seeing you. We got to connect again. I know you have some inside info on some of the stuff that you're working on, and we need to actually set up a phone call. So thank you for doing that. And you always give a lot of money. Let's talk about Great American Syndicate and get you involved in that, and I'll figure out something. Anyways,
guy's a true fan, man. Props.
You already have free tickets to the summit. We've already told you that. Yeah. Anyways, all right. Actually, fun story about him. Cash and I went over to his house when I was visiting Cash one time, and like the guy's got stories for days. He is a fun conversation, and I believe as though we ate his girlfriend's chili, which was delicious. Which random guy in Chicago, we had never met in person. Cash was like, "Do I eat this chili? Is it good?" I felt like it was in the movie Gladiator, where they tested the chili to make sure. I was like, "Cash, let me take this. Let me make sure."
Can't be too safe. You never know.
Right?
Yeah. I probably wouldn't have eaten it personally, but kudos.
Well, I'll make the chili this time. Sorry about that. All right. So, drag brunches. So as a lot of you guys have seen, I'm sure have all three of you, we've talked about these, the drag brunches, the family-friendly drag brunches. There was another one in the Dallas area, actually at a place called Buzz Brews that I used to attend. I used to do like late night foods after I'd go to the bars back when I actually had a life. And they had the drag brunch there, middle of the day. There was definitely two children because there's video of it. Taylor Hanson had a lot of footage. Sarah Gonzalez always shows this stuff as well. What what is your full, we've talked a little bit about this. What is, KSOK, we'll start with you. You're new on this one. What is your opinion on the drag brunches that just are popping up all over the country with children involved?
Yeah, and just I'm here in Oregon, so as you can imagine, we deal with a lot of this. And it's wild to see it spreading into red states that you really wouldn't think to see this happening in. Um, just recently in Oregon, there is a school district that is allowing kids to skip school. Of course, this is more high school age. They can skip school and go to a drag brunch as long as they get a permission slip, but it's not from the parents, it's a permission slip from their teacher. So that's just something that's happening here in Oregon. But I really think across the nation, it's a way to normalize this perversion with our kids.
Okay. Yeah, I would say that's definitely, I think that's the overriding theme of like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Dave, what do you think?
I don't know. Like, why do these drag queens find it so necessary to perform in front of children? Like, if I was a drag queen, like, I would be like, no, there's children in the audience. Like, this isn't appropriate for them. Like, it's just like, to me, it's just common sense. Like, it's just logical. It's reasoning. It's right and wrong. Like, I'm having a really hard time understanding the why behind it, like why anyone thinks it's okay. Like, it's really frustrating, it's disturbing, and it really makes me like worried that we're going down this horrible hole as a society, like if we just allow this stuff to continue.
Yeah, so this last one was interesting because, and for some odd reason, this had me start thinking differently, but I'm not going to get into that until Casey talks. But the thing that was really graphic about this one, because some of them are bad. This one, the cheers that the main drag queen kept doing was so vulgar, like lick me where I pee, lick my butthole, F words, C words, you name it. They were this comedian, and this is coming from somebody that has been to a drag show before and has been very entertained at a drag show. It is adult humor in the right place. New York City is known for some of the best drag shows and drag reviews anywhere in the world. These shows are not that. In fact, the one at Buzz Brews to me was as close, because he was a comedian. That was as close to the level of comedy that I've seen on some of these higher levels that were for adults, because it was incredibly lewd. It was incredibly perverse, but there was a couple kids in the audience. But some of the things that were said were like, holy shit, is there any parent, or should I say, what parent is okay with a child under the age of 13, 14, 15 being okay with that? Casey, what's your thoughts on this? And then I'm going to challenge y'all.
It's grooming. It's grooming our kids, making this all normal. It's not acceptable. Why do we have age restrictions on videos if we allow this to be done in person? If we have age restrictions on video games, why do we allow this stuff to be done in person with children there? It's stupid. It's playing games. It's manipulating people, and it needs to stop.
Yeah, I remember that story recently, a couple months ago.
Oh.
All right, I'm not going to say it out loud.
I have a question. Does anyone know, like, the most famous drag queen in the history of the world thinks about all this? Like, RuPaul, has he ever come out and said anything about any of this? I'm
actually not sure, to be totally honest. I know that he's still working. I know
right.
He's in the industry, but again, that's my point. There is, and I would feel weird to think of somebody like him that was so monumental in kind of this equality movement and allowing people to accept instead of celebrate. Like, it's kind of ruined that. To me, that's why I love Conservative Ant, the page Gays Against Groomers, because they're literally like, whoa, you are making us normal people that just so happen to love somebody of the same gender or same sex, whatever woke mob wants to call it. You're literally ruining our argument by making it extreme. You're showing the perversion, and you're
correct.
So here's me challenging you guys, because I had a weird epiphany, because in this video, they've got the mom walking out with her two kids. She's like, I was here because the drag queen is a friend of mine and I wanted to support her. We brought the kids, which the kids were called out by this person and talking about how great it is. And people cheered that there's kids there, and it made me want to throw up and it made me upset. Here's the thing. There was no nudity. There was incredibly lewd speech. We live in a country with free speech, and we have been fighting for parental rights for a very long time. Like, in the school systems, I don't think it's okay for there to be drag hour. I get that you bring in, that's a federally funded, state funded, city funded, etc. It's different. This is a private business. In my mind, capitalism would be the way to handle this, which is I will never, ever, ever spend my money in a Buzz Brews ever again. But from a freedom-minded person, that parent, I think, is an idiot and a degenerate and a horrible parent that's setting their children up to be sick puppies when they grow up. But that is her choice. So where is it that we are starting to overstep the bounds of what we truly believe in parental rights and free speech? Does anybody want to take a stab at that? Bueller?
I'll jump in. So I battle with this also when people ask me, because I'm a little bit more of a libertarian mindset than either party, but like, where does child pornography fall for freedom of the internet? And that's a similar question to what you're asking, is if you want the internet to be free and you be able to do whatever you want on it, then why is that? Why do we restrict that? And I get that. I get the question, but it's something that should not be done. There should be some regulation in that. When it comes to answering your question, I think, yes, it is up to the parent. The parent can make that judgment call. It does allow them to be a free parent and to raise their kids the way they feel is best, because there is no book written on it, right? So we're all just doing the best we can, and so that needs to be enabled. However, the part that I have a problem with is when you're influencing kids, telling them this is normal. That type of stuff should not be happening, and it should be okay for parents to be coming out and protesting against these things happening. One side's being shamed, not the other. And that's where I believe there needs to be a little bit more relaxation on the rules if we're just going to let it continue. Like, then protests and all of that should be allowed out front without a problem.
I think my dog has become a microcosm for this. He's deciding
Well, if you didn't have your cats trying to kill your dog.
He's chasing his tail in the. There's a huge house, Woodrow. I don't know why he's doing that. Anyways, so to like what William said here, and to like what you just said. Where did William's comment just go? I just had it up. So sorry, go ahead. It is very similar to the concept of.
That's a crock of shit statement right there to begin with.
But okay, so let's go. So why is it I want to hear it. Why is it a crock of shit statement?
Because there's plenty of things that government legislates to protect children. It happens all the time. They legislated to how do people raise their kids when it came to mask mandates in schools,
which we thought was bullshit.
I mean, isn't it illegal for someone to smoke cigarettes in a car with having a kid in the back seat?
In some states.
In some states, right.
But that's actually okay. So that's certifiably medically dangerous. The same with drugs. Like, I know there's a lot of libertarians that are like, we should allow people, if they want to do cocaine, if they want to do heroin, they should be. And I think, Casey, you're one of those. I feel that's where the government can step in, because people can die from that. People can get mentally ill, but the proof is it's a little bit more esoteric. KSOK, what do you think?
Yeah, I can't stand. I mean, there's piece of crap parents out there, and unfortunately, children that have these parents, they need someone to look out for them. And so, if we're not going to have parameters that people need to stay within, they don't have a shot in hell. So, I think I'm all about freedom, but let's not be crazy. Let's not be fools. Like, we need to make sure these children are protected, and we can't. As much as I'm a parent who pulled my kids out of public school and I'm homeschooling now, on that end of it, thankfully I understand what's going on and I protected my kids, but there are some real crappy parents out there, and they're just going to expose their kids unless there's some parameters. The other thing, especially living on the West Coast in a very, very liberal city, there aren't repercussions. And that's why we see violence, gun violence, homicides. You have to have a repercussion. So if you don't set some type of parameters on what's legal and what's illegal, it's just going to be complete chaos.
Yeah, but we already have those parameters, right? Like pornography, alcohol abuse, tobacco use, the ability to, to vote, to serve your country, to drive a car, like
They're
all these things,
loosening
and
every
those
year.
are designed to protect our youth, right? And this is no different. This is on the verge of perversion, pornography, whatever you want to
Right.
call it. Like you can't go like all the strip clubs that used to happen in New York City, like you had to be 18 and over. There's a reason for that. Like this
Right.
isn't like again, this isn't like it's not extreme thinking. Like the extreme is actually what we're seeing. It's ridiculous. Like we have to protect our youth.
I agree with you, but let me pose this why I'm still against what you're saying. You can say that same language when you talk about the government mandating a jab for your children. They're saying they're doing it for the safety of your children.
No, but
Where
that's
do you draw the
counterintuitive
line?
to what the actual science and facts are.
But right now, the science and facts are swayed.
No, the children are the most naturally they're the most protected out of any age group in the country, and it's a fact.
Right, but what I'm saying is you're saying the government has to implement a regulation to be able to control this, right? But if the government got their way within the last 2 years, every child would be mandated and forced to receive that jab. And the government is saying it's for the safety of the child.
Well, what are we talking in terms of government? Are we talking about like a national ban on drag shows, or are we talking about like state and community laws like that?
Yeah.
Like, there's a difference.
Well, it could go either way. I think
Yeah, I would like to come to a place where common sense thinkers like us are out there encouraging people to not allow these things in their communities on a
Right.
local level. And on a local level, if they deem this to be above and beyond what is normal and almost on the verge of perversion or grooming or child exploitation or whatever else, then laws are formed around that.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to focus a lot more on state and county laws for sure. And that's really where these parameters should be decided.
And that's where I agree. I think that first off, I think that from a legislative purpose, it should be done by the school boards and it should be done by the local municipalities. With that said, I do believe that the protests are very powerful, because I think there should be protesting for it. And you know what? You can have the counter weird, the Antifa people out front. You can do whatever you want. But I think the protesting is the way to have your voices heard. You protest with your dollar, never ever spend any money at these establishments ever again, one. And number two, you speak out. Now, the problem that I see now on agreement with your side, and again, I agree for the most part on your side, I'm posing a devil's advocate argument that kind of got in my head, is the fact that if those protesters are saying, stop grooming children, stop doing this, stop doing that, now you have people deeming them as transphobes and bigots and stuff like that. That's absolutely crazy to me.
It's by design. But they're doing that on purpose. I think that's one of the other reasons they love how much we are disgusted by what they're doing. And you talk about clickbait. I mean, in a sense, this is boots on ground clickbait. Let's have one of these sprout up in every conservative town, in every, whatever town. Let's sprout them all up and make the everyone that's right of center look like a bigot. Right. So I think it's completely by design.
And I think, and so this is going to go into that same topic, because as I think everybody here knows about the 17-year-old girl at the YMCA in California. And like you said, this happens in conservative states. Not that California is a conservative state. It happens in conservative states because it gets covered more by conservative influencers and media. It's a red state problem. You will not see any stories on left-wing mainstream media about these protests. You'll see it on local, and you'll see it on Fox, and you'll see it on influencers. I did the search on the girl from California that was in the locker room, and a transgender man, the transgender came in the bathroom that she was in, exposed himself, and she felt uncomfortable. And when she said, I don't feel comfortable with that, and this is a 17-year-old girl, and this is in the same bathroom with 5-year-old, 6-year-old girls, she felt uncomfortable, and she was told that she was in the wrong. Now, we're always told by the left when it comes to these issues that we are making it up. there's one story here. And you're completely making it up because it's not by design, like Kristen just said. It's not shown on leftist media. So it's like it never happened. So we look like loony people talking about, oh, groomers, really? Groomers. And that, to me, is the most dangerous part about this.
Right.
William Light made a comment. So should we only allow normal things? Whose definition of normal are we going to use? Well, the definition normal is what society as a whole deems appropriate and inappropriate. Taking a 10-year-old to a strip club, would that be not normal? Would that be inappropriate? Taking a 10-year-old to a drag show is really no different in my opinion, right? And I think the majority of society would find that inappropriate. That's not normal.
I think the most progressive human being 50 years ago would think what's going on in our country is absolutely batshit crazy. I think that we've slowly just altered humanity, altered morality so much that it's like we didn't even see it sneaking up on us. And the thing is, I will say there is nudity at a strip club, and there is no nudity in 99% of these drag shows. So that's why it does have to become a municipality issue. It shouldn't be a federal government issue. It should be local governments. And this is why we're in a country, fortunately and unfortunately, that the Constitution protects the state. And
so if a strip club had their little stars on their breasts and a fig leaf over their, private parts, would a 10-year-old, would that be okay then?
I don't think
I know what you think, right? But
no, but that to me,
stripping.
I thought about this exact same thing. I said, if the private parts are covered by this school of thought, you should allow a dad to take his 10-year-old into a fully covered strip club with pasties and bush covers, whatever they're called.
I guess that's why our kids can go watch Tarzan too, right?
Right.
The interesting thing to me was when I had this kind of epiphany that there's a little bit more to this than I originally thought in my head. And I just think there's more to think about, which leads to the ability to have a better conversation with somebody on the left that is like, it's what happened to the freedom of choice of parents? I think that there needs to be more done. This is the epitome of people needing to speak up in their own local lives.
Well, we have some very liberal progressive friends, like who are, like just full on liberal left progressive, and they even see this as being wrong. So
I'm just looking at a couple comments. And the fact that it's the YMCA policy is just mind-boggling.
Something that crossed my mind is, I'm always looking to follow the money, right? And so I do follow Gays Against Groomers, and there are a lot of people in the drag queen industry that are completely against this. And so it makes me wonder if these shows and these drag queens are being paid by the federal government large sums of money just to really ruffle some feathers.
I would not doubt it.
It's all funneled through Hunter Biden and $50,000 payments.
They purchased it with I've already forgotten the name. See how good they are. The name of the guy with the crypto and the Z.
FTX.
FTX. Thank you. Yeah, that's how it was funneled.
Well, the FBI did send a letter to Martin Luther King about maybe he should kill himself.
Which I think maybe let's skip into MLB. Oh. I feel like that might be our most contentious argument. First off, Diane, congratulations. It looks like no matter what age you are, you can still be pregnant. So that's great. I'm just kidding. I know what you meant. I just had to.
I was like, okay.
Wow.
Kim, thank you as always. I appreciate it. I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden you guys are helping me out so that I don't have to go back on the street and give,
You're looking a little skinny, Russo.
I've been doing that Vinsanity workout. So the beef, it's feeling good, but I've been eating just fine. All right. Thank you, Kim. Appreciate you. Let's what's going on, Brenda? Just checking in. Who's there? Moral versus normal. I agree. And it's
well said. Yeah.
Yes.
I like that.
Me too.
Diane's like, I am late by a couple of years. Sorry, kidding, Diane. Let's go with jabs and strokes real quick. A lot of people are obviously sharing the clip. I think Kristen, I believe as though you might have done it on Instagram as well as I think Dave, about now the CDC is miraculously talking about the fact that there might be some strokes associated with maybe What you don't read, because that's the weird part, is it's in the headlines, and it was in CNN. It was on all of them. The fact that really the data is only showing 65, and their data, I'm sorry, is only showing 65 and up male. I think just males that this risk is in, but they did see. Geez, I appreciate that. If anybody, any donations up to 200, anybody throwing it out there, my man Stevie's got me. Yeah, so 65 and up. Why they haven't said this is for all ages, I have no idea, because I think anybody has a brain that can see what's going on is that. But it is just the 65 and up, but they're still recommending it. Why are they still recommending it if they're not fully tested and understand? Oh.
Follow the money, baby.
Dave, you did a video earlier, which I was actually in the process of making a follow-up to, but go ahead and talk about the video you made regarding the actual price of the jabs.
Oh, yeah. So Moderna read an article. There's a couple articles on it where they're planning on charging $100 to $300 for the jab when the actual cost of it is only like $3. So not only is it corporate greed, but they're taking advantage of what we called being a fear campaign, a propaganda of lies and deceit, while lobbying Congress or not Congress, but just lobbying in general to hide and suppress, these side effects, which we all know when we watch TV every single day, where these drug commercials are being, just shoved down our throats. There's always side effects, risk of, bleeding from the eyes, or, death, like, sickness. Like, every drug has these crazy side effects that get listed at the end of these commercials.
Say it. I know you want to say it. Can cause anal leakage.
Yes.
All heard it.
Why, honestly, do they really think America's that dumb to think that these vaccines, there's no way they have any side effects whatsoever? Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. They're immune.
What the American Idol, right? Is American Idol contestant, 31 years old, just dropped dead of a so-called, come on. We see this. It's like almost happening every day.
Yeah. You've got the 20-year-old tennis player a couple days ago that was a college tennis player. You've got the American Idol. You've got the MMA fighter from a couple weeks ago. All of these. And all I want is for them to say the status, the V status of the person, which just for informational purposes, I think is important, because I do believe some of this could potentially be long COVID. Because there's no proof either way. But if you're going to tell me that we can't question, the one part that can't be questioned is the fact that we are seeing so much more young death. If you don't have a friend of a friend that has had some like this happen to them, you are so blessed and so lucky, because I think every one of us has had somebody close to us. I've had so many of our followers reach out and talk about their neighbors, their friends, the people they cut their hair for, all of these different things. I don't get how people can't at least go, can we start to do a little research? Is it long COVID? Does it have to do with the smaxganate? What does it have to do with,
Yeah. My uncle, you say that, it's like, yeah, I'm like thinking, I've got my uncle who the timing only pointed in one direction. So as far as a stroke is concerned, so
Crazy.
It's absolutely happening out there. And you say, are people really that stupid? Gosh, you know what? I'm starting to think they are. I think they are.
I think it's stupidity and brainwashing altogether.
Yeah. Or they've gone, it's kind of like Trump also. This is like something I have with him. It's like, love him, but I also really ticked at him at the same time, because it's like, you've gone so far in one direction. Like, you're so pro in one direction that you can't back off and say, maybe I was wrong, or we need to rethink this, or, it's like they've gone so hard in one direction that they just can't bring themselves to admitting they were wrong.
You said One Direction 3 times. Were you hoping that One Direction would go up? Was that like One Direction, One Direction, One Direction? Then bam, all of a sudden we've got music behind us?
Yeah, maybe that was my objective. Thank you for calling that out, though. I will not say that again.
No, just kidding. Casey, in a second. Teresa, thank you very much. Appreciate you more than you know. Thank you for always watching the show. I don't know what's going on with you guys. The economy is getting worse, and you guys are actually helping me out. And for those of you that, real quick, whenever you see me do a live, for now, I don't know how long it will last, but Facebook has monetized me again. I think they're making a mistake. But go ahead and share those videos. Like, you don't realize if I get 100,000 views on something, I actually get like $100. So that's the best way to help on another level. These videos don't get triggered because they're too long, but any of my sub 20-minute videos, share them out. Share Dave's videos out on Great American Syndicate, all the above, because those are monetized. That's how you can help us without actually giving money. Teresa, thank you very much. Okay. Casey, go ahead.
You guys know I agree with you. The biggest thing that when I see these situations come up, like we've talked about it during COVID on how all of the testing, I don't know how many times I've talked about this. They removed all of the testing. And by the way, all the Trump removed all of the testing for this thing to be released. So you remember that, right? Operation Warp Speed removed all of the trials, all of those things that are normally done, which we did a video on very early on showing the fastest drug to market was 18 months. And that was reproducing a drug that was already existing and just tweaking the formula slightly. And they were able to do it in 18 months. We released this jab in like half that time. And that is the fastest drug to market ever. The average is closer to 4 years. So when you start looking at this, you have to start looking at it. Looking at what did we change? We didn't follow our normal process. As much as I hate FDA and the regulation industry, all of the regulations, but they do have a purpose. And that is where we went around that to release this jab.
No, nobody went around it. They just got paid to pretend like it never happened.
But even if so, like they still could have had like, here are the possible side effects, like, jabber beware, like, but they didn't do any of that. They just ignored it and they just pushed. Let's jab as many people as we can, including our children, including infants. None of it matters. It's all good. You're all going to be protected. You won't get it. You can't pass it on. Lies.
Well, and there's a big long video, a compilation that was put together that showed everybody that was said, oh yeah, if you get it, your life goes back to normal. You don't have to wear masks. You can have your parties with your families. You can't retransmit it. You won't get COVID. And all of that was a lie.
Yeah.
Every bit of it.
And I said this before on the show, my prediction, and I heard this from Andy Frisella, that's the next thing that they're going to pin on Trump, right? He gets close to winning again, or when he's running, whatever, next year, like more of this comes out, it's going to be Trump's fault. Trump did this. It's his fault. And all the celebrities who are lining up to get it and promoting it and getting paid by Pfizer and Moderna to influence it and share it on Instagram and all this stuff, they'll be the first ones in line to throw him under the bus after they're out there telling everybody to go out there and get it.
Yeah, what's his face? This Phelps, you've got Pink. They've turned all the comments off. Now you'll see Pfizer ads all over your Instagram, and all the comments are off on the. I mean, I think that a lot of people in this country have woken up. One of my good friends who is a conservative Jewish girl I went to high school with, and she loves my content. Her and her husband are doctors. Not a big fan when I go against in the beginning when I was like conspiracy theorist, aka 6 months early on all my information. And now they are in the school of thought of something is wrong. Now they don't know whether or not it's long COVID or the jab or both. They actually think it's both now. But fact is, there's people that are demanding answers, and this is somebody in the medical profession, a renowned doctor. They talk about it amongst themselves. So this isn't conspiracy anymore, and I don't know what's going on. But William and I have agreed a decent amount on this episode. William, did we just become best friends? Are we gonna like play swords or something? I don't know.
And look, this isn't boohoo Trump either, right? Like I hold him just as accountable. Like I think Casey's in agreement. Like he was out there too. Like just get it. He was the one who removed all these guidelines. So he in the end he is somewhat responsible for what we're seeing now. And plus he's old, and I'm kind of done with him. For me anyway, personal opinion.
Well, and one last thing to remind you guys. The new variant XBB.1.5, you're more likely to get COVID if you are vaccinated.
According to New York statistics, 70.
Oh, really? I didn't hear about that.
But don't forget the end of the article that they, of course, put out there, which is you are more likely to get it. This is the official response when they got that. You're more likely to get it, but it still protects from hospitalization and death because they can prove that fact somehow. There's been the research in the last 32 hours. 73% of cases are the XBB, XYZ, Elon Musk's child's names vary.
We're not asking what gender you are.
Yep, Zer. So again, by the way, another conservative half Jew. Again, I like to always say Jew-ish. All right. When that George Santos guy said that, I was like, and they were giving him shit for it, and I do think he is a raging ball of garbage. I was like, that's my line. The Jew-ish is my line, and we're not going to be talking about George Santos, but I do find it interesting that he was the one right when he got elected that was like, I really don't want to make it my point to investigate into Hunter Biden. I want to do what's right for the country. And I was like, oh, I'm glad that he's getting a bunch of shit, because he is the definition, not even of a rhino. I don't know. He is a leftist politician that ran as a Republican, plain and simple. All right. Last quick thing. We can say Jew. Let's see. And I forgot, at the end of this episode, I'm going to play a song by a guy that was hitting me up. A really cool song. His name's Jamin Van Dillen. He hit me up on Instagram. He's like, make it go viral. And he's only got like 280 subscribers, but he's got 41,000 views on this song. Warning, there is some profanity. We're not playing it yet. We're talking the last thing. MLK. It was MLK Day this week. On Monday, this is the first year I did not post an MLK post. I'm going to just start the discussion here. If you watch Chad O. Jackson and you watch some of his stuff talking about the history of Martin Luther King, and this is a touchy thing because I am a white guy that's about to say that Martin Luther King is actually not my hero in any way, shape, or form. And I'm more, if I were to be pinned up against the wall, I would say Malcolm X was much more forward thinking for the Black people in this country and for equality and for unity than Martin Luther King. But there's a lot that people don't know about Martin Luther King. He was the perfect prop for the civil rights movement. And there is a lot of conservative Black minds right now that are realizing how bad the civil rights movement was for this country. If you really if you take away the I Have a Dream speech that was not written by Martin Luther King, there is very few speeches that don't speak. There are very few speeches of Martin Luther King that talk about unity. Predominantly, he speaks of Marxist philosophies and principles, and I know this is going to get me in trouble. But as a minister, he was also a man that had women and wives everywhere. And I know Dave's going to talk about the FBI essentially threat that was made to him. And the last thing I will say is he was, on top of being a womanizer and a minister, Chad O. Jackson on a show with Anomaly said yesterday, him and his team with Uncle Tom, the movie Uncle Tom, they went through every bit of writing and footage while they were creating that of Martin Luther King, and including his being a minister. And there is almost little to no actual footage or writings of him professing the word of God, talking about repentance, talking about what it takes to be a follower of Christ. It was all about, this is where the march is going to be. This is where we're going. His arrests are right out of a Marxist playbook. So that's the start of this conversation. I think we might go a hair over an hour on this one, but anybody want to take a stab at what I just dropped on them?
This is all news to me, so.
Like, I don't know if I want to be a white conservative person saying that Martin Luther King might not be all he's cracked up to be. Dave, go ahead and talk about the FBI documents that have just been, I guess, for the first time seen.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know about this either. I mean, I saw it the other day on DC Drano, someone who I follow on Instagram. By the way, DC Drano is a highly educated attorney turned conservative influencer who has like 2 million followers, and he does his research on whatever he posts. But do you know that in 1964, the FBI under J. Edgar Hoover sent a letter to Martin Luther King telling him he had 34 days to commit suicide, or they were going to reveal evidence of his extramarital affairs, which they basically, from what I understand, had basically sex tapes of him. And he went on to say, I'm sure the FBI wasn't involved in this assassination attempt whatsoever as well. Then he goes on and shares the letter and some other content about that. But did you know that the FBI wiretapped MLK starting in 1963? Most Americans don't. Did you know who the Attorney General was who signed off on those wiretaps? None other than Robert F. Kennedy, while his brother John F. Kennedy was president. So basically, you could argue that the Kennedys spied on Martin Luther King.
So I'm going to answer this question. And again, we cannot have the debate. We can't have the debate if you guys want to get into it, because I know that I probably look like a raging white piece of shit on this one. So the school of thought on the civil rights, and I encourage everybody to follow. And I know, William, you're not a fan of Chad O. Jackson. I encourage everybody to follow Chad. So the concept of the civil rights movement is, on paper, it's great. And the problem is, in my mind, that we're still using that today as the way that we engage in violence. BLM, which I don't think anybody with a brain would say was a upstanding organization, but what they did, again, it could have been funded by people like Soros, which I just did I did a video talking about the fact the reason you can't Google George Soros and find out anything that's bad about him is because he owns $91 million worth of Alphabet stock. Just saying. But anyways, back to that was a little bit of a sidebar. So what they're saying is, if you ask Black people, this is what Chad says, if you ask Black people that are born before that era, what were things like? Did you face racism? Absolutely, they faced racism. They thought that people were, they were very separated. There was, separate drinking fountains. White people thought less of Black people. But how did Black people intertwine with their own community? Who did they go to for doctors? Who did they go to for lawyers? Who did they go to for store owners? What businesses? And before the civil rights movement, before they were all built up with so much angst and built up with the Black Panthers, like we need to rise up. The way that they rose up was by fighting instead of continuing to show what they could do. And maybe that was successful. We don't, it looks like it was successful in terms of bringing the races together. But what it did was it ruined the Black community. There was handouts given to Black people across the board. I mean, to poor people, but it was focused on the minority community. All politicians, there's audio, there's video clips of them talking about it. And in the end, you went from having Black businesses where they at least patronized each other to now they ended up being more run by poverty and run by federal programs saying, oh, we screwed you up, take this. And it made them not deficient. Before, they were homeowners. They used to be family oriented. So that is the whole thought process. Is civil rights bad for this country? I think on paper, and anybody with a brain would say no, but I think the civil rights movement can be argued, and I think Chad O. Jackson does a great job doing it. So,
look what's happening in San Francisco, right? With the reparations that they want to provide to any Black person who was born in San Francisco. It's a ridiculous amount, like $5 million a person or something, astronomical like that. To me, all it does is encourage. And this is what's the movie, Casey, that you mentioned with your friends there that did the part 2. Uncle Tom, right? All it does is perpetuate victimhood mentality and keeps them in that victimhood, lane like that. There's no question that our inner cities and these communities have been neglected over and over and over again. And the one thing about MLK, regardless of his past or, things that he was doing on the side, whatever, I believe that he really understood what America could be. Right. And that's what he was really trying to drive home. And I think all of us understand what it could be. Like, it has its faults. It should be more unifying, more encompassing. It should be more fair and equal for everybody. But life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is what is guaranteed. It doesn't guarantee happiness. But everyone should have the opportunity to have those things and to pursue those things.
Yeah, I agree. And Russo, a lot of that stuff that you mentioned, I didn't really know, but I could reflect on and seeing the government doing it to control a narrative or drive people to a certain direction in thinking and moving. And that's why I was so quiet as I was thinking through that. And yeah, they took this guy, Martin Luther King, and took this message and ran with it to try to get people to move in a certain direction, potentially, is what I heard, what you were describing. And I got more research to do now because Suni has mentioned similar stuff to that before, not in as detailed as you just outlined it. And so I do have to go back and look at that and understand more. It's the same as like Christopher Columbus, for example. There's so much negativity around him, but if you go back and actually read about him, he wasn't as bad as people claimed.
I used to be somebody that was like, why do we need to have a Columbus Day? Let's be honest, indigenous people, like this is just BS. And then now the more research you do about revisionist history, you start to realize it's just kind of like, we wouldn't, not with Christopher Columbus, but without the settlers, we wouldn't be here without taking over some of the indigenous people. And also you look at the indigenous people, the Native Americans, the Indian, whatever you want to call them, they were evil to each other, the other tribes. Like, these were savages. So it was like the bully picked on the little bully, and then the bigger bully, and then the bigger bully. And we just so happened to be the biggest bully that came in. And that's how we are here today. So it's very tough for me to kind of be like, whatever. And let's not forget about the fact that they did actually get reparations, in the sense of they have a shitload of land. And you know what they do? The leadership screws their people. They are the ones that put casinos. They make a shitload of money. They use government programs to impoverish the actual Native American people. We're not doing that. Their own people are, which is reminiscent potentially of what happened a long time ago. I am probably sounding like the world's biggest.
Well, talk about a victim mentality. I mean, seriously, have you driven through a reservation or even spent time in one? I mean, it's so depressing. And you talk about it, it is from the top. And it's like, really, you could have this, you could step outside the reservation, get a job. It's just really frustrating to see that the people are really held down, held back because of this victim mentality that comes from the top.
Yeah.
Look, there's a big difference between a hand out and a hand up, right? And
Right.
that is exactly what has been going on in this country since the civil rights movement. I mean, it's what William said before, William Light. Would you say these inner cities were neglected by the system, maybe in a systemic way? Absolutely. And they still are. But who do they keep voting for every single year for 50 years straight?
Right.
I saw
like Nancy Pelosi says, we feed them. We feed them. Right? So that's what we feed you. So keep voting for us so we can keep you under our thumb.
Yeah. And to that point, it's, well, I'll even just get to so white people but we're just talking about the fact that they are doing that to themselves still. Like, it's, it's one of those just mindsets where it's like, I don't know what else to say. And it's, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and stop on that note. I'm good. Casey, go ahead and wrap things up on your end, and then we'll go around the bar, and then we'll end it with that song, and we'll be out of here.
Not much on my end. It's a new year, so be aware of your states and what's going on in your legislature. Mine just started, so you'll start seeing me with videos again back down at the Capitol to try to keep our state running well, and not like some liberal states like California. But so keep in tune with your local government. You need to know what's going on.
Heard that. And Auntie Barb has entered the chat. I guess she's done with her interview. Say hi to her, Dave. If she's in the other room, just yelling, "Hey, Barb!" Anyways, Dave, wrap it.
Look, there's 4 awesome people on this panel, or 3 awesome people. You know, you guys can determine how awesome I am. But anyway, 4 people who are freedom-loving patriots. If you want to get around more people like us, then, join the Great American Syndicate. We're all about self, family, community, and country, not handouts, not victimhood. Quite the opposite. We believe in the American dream, and we believe in the greatness of America. So if you believe in those things, we'd love to see you inside and join us as a lifetime member. Make sure you get your tickets to the Great American Summit, June 2nd and 3rd in Dallas, Texas.
And the link is on the bottom. You got greatamericansyndicate.com. And also, let me just throw this up there. There's the tickets. They're still incredibly discounted. Again, they're, I think, a third of what their final price will be. So make sure you get them now. Hopefully we'll see you at that. KSOK,
Yeah.
wrap up your first of maybe, if you'd like to join us again.
Hey. Yeah, I always love to jump on these things. And I appreciate you having me. So if you want to find me, my show is KSOK Uncensored, even though we all know I'm quite censored. So that's kind of a joke. But I'm on pretty much all the main channels on Instagram, where I am most active. And somehow I'm not currently shadow banned. It's KSOK.lower48. And also, I just want to say, take a look at the 2023 food pyramid and basically do the opposite, because in this new food pyramid, they have all these crap cereals towards the top and the middle. And then in the very bottom, they have ground beef and eggs and cheese. So basically do the opposite, but take a peek at that if you have not already looked at that. And then you'll get a really good understanding of what our government is doing to us.
What? You can't tell me Lucky Charms. They're saying Lucky Charms is better than ground beef. Yeah, that's not true.
Oh my gosh.
Many
These
weeks.
people are sick. Notice there wasn't a run on cereal. We have plenty of cereal, but the eggs, that's actually decent for you. That's what we can't get our hands on, right? Or you pay a fortune.
Yeah.
Well, and remember, because we're inflation and everything costs so much, Joe Biden's told you, buy the store brand cereal, not the big brand.
Yeah. Yeah, because he actually knows what that
So helpful. Thank you.
I'm actually choosing behind a carton of eggs and an engagement ring for Kelly right now. That's how.
Yeah, go with the eggs. That's my 2 cents.
My husband doesn't hear that. Jesus.
What do they have? What is it called? The caveman shopping or whatever? When you go to the grocery store, you're supposed to shop on the outside and avoid the
That's
middle.
all I do.
Because it's all processed.
I'm into the health. I do live in the Northwest. We do like our healthy food, but shop the outside, maybe an engagement ring. But yeah, eggs are quite expensive.
Me outside. So guys, I'm about to be on a show in about 20 minutes with Barry. If he shows up, we'll see. Hopefully he does. I know he really thinks he's always right. So we're going to have a little fun on that one in terms of the arguments if he jumps on. So make sure it'll be on the Truth Will Set You Free Facebook page, Blunt Force Discussion, Facebook and YouTube. It'll be the first time we've done a live Blunt Force discussion. So make sure you join us on that. Shout out to one of our sponsors who you guys buy from a lot. So thank you. It's our affiliates, The Dr. Artist Show. Do BFD at checkout for 10% off. That also helps how we do. He's got the stuff that helps protect you from the XYXYZ variant and also regular things like the cold and the flu, and Prostate Pro for people like me that have to wake up at 5 a.m. to pee all the time, which I take it, I don't. Little too much information. Anyways, guys, thank you for joining. I'm going to go ahead and bring this video up again. There is a little bit of swearing in it, but it's a pretty cool little hip hop song. And I think it's an up and coming conservative, like MAGA style artist. KSOK, just so you know, stick around. If you've got a few minutes, I'll play the video and we usually stick around in the back and say thank you and all that stuff. So yeah, if you can. If not, I'll catch up with you later.
I'll be here.
All right, cool. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share this. And ready in 5, 4, 3, let's play it.
They just wanna divide us. They just wanna divide us. Niggas believe we're united. They just wanna divide us. They just wanna divide us. They just wanna divide us. Through fear, control, and some violence. They just wanna divide us.
This just in, the virus so deadly that it claims less lives than the deaths from the actual fucking vaccine. But don't worry, Dr. Fauci, he's here to save the day. Give you a little jab to keep the COVID away.
Facts on facts, California tax. Let this, let that fucking Democrat. Share this, share that, just elaborate for the fat cats with the forward tat and a black hat. Mask up, mask from cures that. Boost this, boost that, vaccine, heart attacks. Cue this, cue that. Hate whites and black, Asian hate didn't let. She's a fucking subject.
She, her, he, him, they, their, they, them, gay, queer, les, bisexual, plus trans. You can be a man for the weekend, then change it back and go fuck yourself.
Are we still human? There's so much confusion, so many illusions, too quick to conclusions. I got a contusion from too much pollution of information of experiments on humans. CEOs and false prophets who stock bonds and stock options. They sold their soul for Satan's play pan just to grab ass and watch profits. Teaching 5-year-old boys noise. It's okay to suck on the boys' voice. Fucking sick, you fucking elitist pricks. Eat a bag of Satan's dicks. They just wanna divide us. They just wanna divide us. Niggas believe we're united. They just wanna divide us. They just wanna divide us. They just wanna divide us. Through fear, control, and some violence. They just wanna divide us.
This just in, a new variant affecting people at a rapid rate. The Pope says it goes against God not to get the vaccine. This pandemic proves the perfect time for the Great Reset and to remove basic human rights, because who really needs them? I planted seeds that will grow inside. I pray to God in a parking lot. I have to be disconnected from the collective. I call it my truest lessons. I read every sentence. I took a consensus to write in the mouth of the entrance, but don't know the difference. I pray to God in a dark garage. Disconnect me from the false facade. They're activating activists that before and captivating capitalists with a fake voice from a false choice like a fuckboy. And it's crazy when you actually see what's happening so rapidly, and to guarantee your sovereignty through fake and false philosophy. They want to brand your property and make you eat the policy. They want to take away our freedoms. They want separation
separation between us. And Satan, they pledge their allegiance. They'll take away souls, but don't feed them.
This just in, Press Secretary Jen Psaki says they're looking at efforts across the country to prevent people from being able to exercise their fundamental rights. And Joe Biden says he doesn't care if you think he's Satan reincarnated.
They just want to divide us.
They just want to divide us.
Make us believe we're united. They just want to divide us. They just want to divide us.
They just want to divide us.
Through fear, control, and some violence. They just want to divide us.
This just in, Jen Psaki. This just in, Nancy. This just in, Joe Biden. This just in.
Real quick, guys, that I went ahead and put that in the chat. Also in the chat, where am I? Bum, 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 right screen. I put that in the chat. If you guys want to click that link, share that if you liked it. I know it's got some dirty words in it. Sorry. And also right along with that, I forgot to put, I'm going to put this, the link to the Chato Jackson and the Chato Jackson interview. Did I just do it right there? Did I not do the right song? Well, it'll be in there. I'll share it in the links if you guys want to check it out for the Chato Jackson interview, as well as that song from that artist. Take it easy, guys. Have a great night. God bless. Peace.